Imagine the quiet stillness of your bedroom, the world outside hushed, and the day's worries finally fading into the background. You pull the covers close, settle into your favorite position, and drift into what you believe is a safe, restorative sleep. But what if I told you that within that comforting silence, a hidden danger is brewing? What if one of the most ordinary things you do every single night, the simple act of how you position your body for rest, could be silently, methodically raising your risk of a life-altering stroke, all without a single ounce of pain or a moment's warning? You go to bed feeling perfectly fine, with no chest pain, no slurred speech, no dizziness to sound the alarm. Yet, by morning, everything could have changed. You might awaken to a world that feels tilted and confusing, unable to form words, or discover that an arm you've relied on for a lifetime now refuses to lift. A stroke, arriving like a thief in the night, sudden, silent, and devastating. This is not a hypothetical scenario or a scare tactic. It is a clinical reality I have witnessed firsthand more times than I can count. The quiet hours between midnight and dawn, which we associate with peace and rejuvenation, are, for an aging body, a period of profound vulnerability. It is during this time that our blood pressure naturally fluctuates. Our blood thickens slightly due to dehydration, and our circulation can become sluggish. For a senior citizen, these subtle physiological shifts, when combined with a seemingly harmless sleeping position, can create a perfect storm for neurological catastrophe. The devastating irony is that the very comfort you seek in your sleep might be the exact thing that compromises the delicate blood flow your brain needs to survive the night. The stillness you crave could be contributing to the stagnation of blood in the vital arteries of your neck and head, creating the perfect environment for a blood clot to form and wait. As a doctor who specializes in the brain, I have seen this tragedy unfold far too many times. And the most heartbreaking part is that it often isn't the result of a lifetime of smoking, a poor diet, or a lack of exercise. Instead, it stems from common sleeping habits that most seniors have been taught are perfectly safe, even beneficial. They are not. Tonight, I want to take you on a journey into the hidden world of your sleep, to walk you through the dangerous sleeping positions and seemingly innocent nighttime routines that may be dramatically increasing your risk of stroke, brain bleeds, or dangerous blood pressure spikes, especially during those quiet, early morning hours when your brain is at its most vulnerable. If you or someone you love is over the age of 60, this information could be the most important thing you read this year. It could save a life, perhaps even your own. So please, lean in closer and listen carefully. We are going to explore the intricate dance between your posture, your circulation, and your brain's nightly fight for survival. We will dismantle the long-held myths about what constitutes a good night's sleep and replace them with scientifically backed knowledge that can protect you. This is not about fear, it is about empowerment. It is about understanding that you possess the power to make small, simple adjustments tonight that can have a profound impact on all of your tomorrows. The information I am about to share is rarely discussed in a standard doctor's visit, where the focus is often on medication and major lifestyle changes like diet and exercise. But the 8 hours you spend in bed are just as critical, if not more so, because that is when your body is at the mercy of gravity, pressure, and the position you choose. Let this be your wake-up call, a chance to reclaim your health in a way you never thought possible, starting with the simple, sacred act of sleep. Masters, sleeping flat on your back with no pillow. There is a profound, almost primal comfort in lying flat on your back at night, with your arms resting at your sides and no pillow to cradle your head. It feels like a return to simplicity, a posture of surrender to the night. For many older adults, this is a cherished habit that began decades ago, perhaps as a way to alleviate back pain or to feel as though their chest could open up and breathe more freely. It is often touted in popular culture as a way to avoid wrinkles or maintain spinal alignment, creating a dangerous illusion of healthfulness. But here is the stark, unsettling truth that almost no one ever tells you. Sleeping completely flat on your back without elevating your head can silently and significantly increase your risk of a stroke overnight. and you might never ever feel it coming. When you sleep in this supine, head-level position, your head is on the exact same plane as your heart. While this might sound natural, physiologically, it creates a dangerous challenge for an aging body. As we grow older, the delicate vessels in our neck and brain begin to lose their youthful flexibility and elasticity. The carotid and vertebral arteries, the four major highways delivering blood to your brain, can become stiffened with age and narrowed by plaque, a condition known as atherosclerosis. At the same time, the crucial veins that are designed to drain deoxygenated blood away from your brain, specifically the jugular veins, must now fight a relentless battle against gravity without any assistance. Instead of draining away smoothly and effortlessly, blood can begin to pool, its movement slowing to a dangerous crawl. This stagnation, medically known as venous stasis, can lead to a state of hypercoagulability, where the blood is more likely to form clots, especially in the vulnerable early morning hours when our blood pressure naturally begins to rise. And when a blood clot forms in the stillness of sleep, it rarely stays quiet for long. All it takes is one small clot in a narrowed, age-stiffened vessel, and the consequences can be catastrophic: slurred speech, a drooping face, permanent disability, or even death. I want to tell you about a patient of mine, Mr. Leonard Whitaker, a 77-year-old retired mechanic from Michigan. He was a strong, fiercely independent man, the kind who still spent his afternoons happily fixing lawnmowers in his garage and took immense pride in his self-reliance. Every single night, he laid down flat in his bed, without a pillow, folding his hands neatly on his chest, a habit he'd picked up during his days in the Navy. He swore it helped him sleep more deeply, that it was the only way his back felt truly at rest. He had no major health complaints, just a bit of high blood pressure that he managed with a low-dose medication. One morning, his wife Mary went to wake him for breakfast and found him in bed, half awake but utterly unable to speak. His eyes were open, filled with a terrifying confusion and panic, and one side of his face had slackened and fallen as if the muscles had simply given up. He couldn't lift his right arm to reach for her. In the emergency room, a brain scan revealed a clot blocking his left middle cerebral artery, a classic ischemic stroke that occurs when blood thickens and clots inside narrowed vessels, often during the physiological stress of sleep. His carotid arteries, though not severely blocked, were stiff from age. The neurologist concluded that the hours he spent lying perfectly flat had likely compromised the venous drainage from his brain for years, allowing blood to pool for too long. This, combined with the natural morning surge in blood pressure, was all it took to trigger the event. Doctors worked heroically to dissolve the clot with powerful medications, but Leonard was never quite the same. His speech is slower now, a frustrating echo of his once quick wit, and he relies on a walker to get around his beloved garage, which now sits mostly quiet. Every night, Mary now carefully props him up on a wedge pillow, a simple device they both wish with all their hearts they had known about years earlier. What most people fail to grasp is that when you lie flat, especially with the age-related vascular changes that are a normal part of life, the venous drainage from your brain becomes compromised. That's the medical way of saying your brain's plumbing system slows down, and stagnant blood becomes a fertile breeding ground for clots. This position also increases intracranial pressure, the pressure inside your skull, which can further impede blood flow in the delicate capillaries that feed your brain cells. Add in the natural dehydration that occurs overnight, which makes your blood thicker, and the potential for lower oxygen saturation from conditions like undiagnosed sleep apnea, and you have created a perfect storm for a neurological disaster. This position is particularly perilous for seniors with known risk factors like hypertension, atrial fibrillation, sleep apnea, or a history of carotid artery disease. For these individuals, sleeping flat is like playing Russian roulette every single night. The safest and most profound adjustment you can make is to introduce a slight elevation of your head, about 30 degrees or roughly the height of 2 firm pillows. This simple change allows gravity to become your ally, not your enemy. It assists with venous blood flow out of the brain, reduces intracranial pressure, prevents airway collapse, and allows your brain to oxygenate more evenly throughout the night. Even 1 or 2 supportive pillows can make a world of difference. It is not about comfort, It is about protecting your independence, your memory, and your very essence. As Leonard once told me, with tears welling in his eyes, "Doc, if someone had just told me that sleeping flat could do this, that my pride in not needing a pillow was a mistake, I would have changed it years ago." Let me be that someone for you today. Elevate your head tonight. The bar, sleeping face down. There is another quiet mistake that many older adults make every single night, one that feels comforting, familiar, and deceptively harmless: sleeping on your stomach. Perhaps you started doing it years ago to find relief from an aching back or to muffle the sounds of a snoring partner. Maybe you enjoy the gentle pressure on your chest or the way it makes you feel cocooned and safe from the world, a retreat from life's anxieties. But I am here to tell you something you may have never heard from your primary doctor, who is likely more focused on your cholesterol and blood sugar levels. For an aging brain, sleeping face down can be one of the most perilous positions you can choose, actively working against your body's natural design for rest and recovery. In the medical world, we call it the prone position. In a younger, more resilient body with flexible arteries and robust circulation, it might not cause significant harm beyond a stiff neck in the morning. But as we age, our circulation naturally slows. Our arteries harden with time in a process called arteriosclerosis, and our oxygen levels can dip more easily, especially during the deepest stages of sleep. When you sleep face down, several dangerous things begin to happen simultaneously, creating a cascade of risk that accumulates night after night. First and most critically, to breathe, you are forced to turn your neck sharply to one side, holding it in that rotated position for hours on end. This severe rotation can directly compress the vertebral arteries, the critical vessels that run up through the bones of your spine and are responsible for carrying oxygen-rich blood to the posterior part of your brain, a region that controls your balance, coordination, vision, and even your consciousness. But that's not all. This posture also puts sustained, uneven pressure on the carotid arteries in the front of your neck, especially as your head sinks into a soft pillow or mattress. Blood flow is restricted. The veins that are supposed to carry deoxygenated blood away from the brain become kinked like a garden hose. Stagnant blood begins to collect and thicken. In vulnerable individuals, particularly those with pre-existing narrowing of these arteries, this is where blood clots are born. These clots may sit there quietly for hours, a silent threat waiting for the early morning surge in blood pressure to dislodge them and send them traveling directly into the brain, resulting in a stroke that is often massive, difficult to treat, and sometimes fatal. I will never forget Mrs. Ethel Lawson, an 82-year-old retired school teacher from Ohio, a woman whose life was built on order, clarity, and precision. She came to me after a terrifying ordeal that had shattered her carefully constructed world. Her daughter, who checked on her daily, had found her one morning lying awkwardly on her stomach in bed, her head turned at an unnatural angle, her speech a garbled mess of sounds, and her entire left side completely unresponsive. Ethel was rushed to the hospital, where scans revealed a large ischemic stroke affecting her cerebellum and brainstem, the very parts of the brain that govern coordination, balance, and basic life functions. The cause wasn't high cholesterol or the atrial fibrillation that doctors so often look for. Ethel's carotid arteries were simply narrowed with age, a common finding in octogenarians. The hours she spent sleeping face down, with her neck twisted at an extreme angle, had reduced blood flow through her right vertebral artery just enough, for just long enough, to allow a deadly clot to form. By morning, the damage was done. Ethel survived, but her life was irrevocably altered. She no longer drives her car to the library or tends to her beloved rose garden, activities that once defined her days. She struggles to walk without the aid of a walker, her once steady gait now a frustrating shuffle. She tells me every time we meet, with a sorrow that still haunts her eyes. I had no idea something as simple as how I slept could nearly take my life. I thought I was just getting comfortable. The science is clear and unforgiving. In the prone position, neck rotation of 45 degrees or more can impede vertebral artery flow by more than 40%. For a senior with already compromised circulation, that is a catastrophic reduction. Furthermore, the compression on your chest and abdomen can reduce lung expansion, leading to lower oxygen saturation throughout the night. This puts additional stress on your heart and brain, forcing your heart to pump harder to circulate less oxygenated blood. A 30-year-old might wake up gasping for air and instinctively readjust, their body's alarm systems fully functional. But at 70 or 80, the same drop in oxygen might go completely unnoticed by the sleeping mind, silently setting the stage for a nighttime stroke. If you or someone you love is in the habit of sleeping on your stomach, I urge you to begin the process of switching to your side, using a firm pillow between your knees to align your hips and a contour pillow that keeps your head and neck in a neutral, straight line. You can even use body pillows to physically prevent yourself from rolling onto your stomach during the night. These small changes are not about finding a new level of comfort, they are about survival. They are about ensuring that the vessels feeding your brain are open and unobstructed, allowing your brain the full restorative rest it needs to greet a new day. Sleeping with a heavy blanket over the head. There's a small, deeply personal habit that many seniors carry with them from childhood into old age. Something comforting, almost childlike, that we do without a second thought. We pull the blanket up and over our heads at night. Maybe it's to block out the disruptive sliver of light from a street lamp or the digital glow of an alarm clock. Perhaps it's to muffle the noise from a snoring partner or the creaks and groans of an old house. Maybe the room feels a bit drafty, or maybe, like many who grew up in colder homes before the era of central heating, we find a unique kind of peace and security under that warm, dark cocoon. It feels safe. It feels private. It feels like a fortress against the world. But for an older adult, this seemingly innocent nighttime ritual, a simple act of pulling fabric over your face, can quietly turn deadly by creating a toxic microenvironment for your brain while you sleep. When you sleep with a heavy, non-breathable blanket or quilt pulled over your head, you aren't just blocking out light and sound. You are severely limiting your supply of fresh, oxygenated air. Over the course of the night, inside that tiny enclosed space you've created, your oxygen levels begin to drop steadily. At the same time, carbon dioxide, the waste gas we exhale with every breath, has nowhere to go. It builds up around your nose and mouth, and you begin to rebreathe it. While your younger body may have tolerated this mild oxygen deprivation and carbon dioxide buildup decades ago, at 60, 70 or 80, your brain simply cannot recover in the same way. This state of low oxygen, hypoxia, and high carbon dioxide, hypercapnia, during sleep triggers a dangerous physiological response. It increases the acidity of your blood and can cause your blood to thicken, making it more prone to clotting. In a vulnerable, aging brain with already narrowed vessels, this is a direct invitation for blood clots to form. Let me share the story of Mr. Richard Hale, an 81-year-old retired postmaster from Iowa. A quiet, thoughtful man, Richard had always loved the feeling of sleeping in complete darkness and silence. He told me he'd been pulling the covers over his head since he was a boy, sharing a room with his 3 brothers, finding it the only way to get a moment of peace. His wife had gently teased him about it for over 50 years, saying he looked like a bundled-up caterpillar every night, but it made him feel safe and relaxed, and it had never caused him any harm that he knew of. So every evening, he tucked himself in tightly, pulling a thick, old-fashioned quilt over his head before curling up to sleep. Then one morning, Richard didn't get out of bed at his usual time. His wife, growing alarmed, went to check on him. She pulled back the quilt and found him groggy, profoundly disoriented, and unresponsive to her questions. He could barely open his eyes, and when he did, they seemed unfocused. When the paramedics arrived, his blood oxygen saturation levels were dangerously low, in the high 80s, a level that indicates significant respiratory compromise. A scan at the hospital revealed the devastating truth. He had suffered a silent stroke in the early morning hours. A clot had formed and lodged itself in a small vessel deep within his brain, not from high cholesterol or a heart condition, but from prolonged oxygen deprivation during sleep, paired with age-related blood thickening. The primary risk factor, the one no one had ever warned him about, was his lifelong habit of sleeping with restricted airflow under a heavy blanket. During the deep restorative stages of sleep, your brain requires a consistent, uninterrupted flow of oxygen to repair itself, consolidate memories, and clear out metabolic waste products. When you are under the covers rebreathing stale air, your oxygen levels can plummet, forcing your heart to compensate by beating faster and causing your blood pressure to fluctuate wildly as your body struggles to maintain homeostasis. These dramatic spikes and valleys in blood pressure put immense stress on already fragile blood vessels, increasing the risk of both ischemic strokes from clots and hemorrhagic strokes from ruptured vessels. It is a terrifying thought. You go to sleep feeling warm and secure, but your brain is slowly suffocating, fighting a losing battle for the very element it needs to survive. By the time the damage is done, you may wake up a different person, if you wake up at all. This is not to say you must sleep in a brightly lit, noisy room. The solution is simple and safe. Instead of pulling the covers up, please try wearing a comfortable, lightweight sleep mask to block out light and using soft foam earplugs for sound. Invest in breathable, lightweight bedding made from natural fibers like cotton or bamboo, which allow for better air circulation even if they accidentally cover your face during the night. This isn't about giving up comfort. It's about giving your brain the oxygen it desperately needs to survive the night and thrive the next day. Sleeping upright in a recliner. For countless older adults, sleep becomes a nightly challenge, a frustrating battle against the body's own betrayals. It's not just about falling asleep, but about staying asleep without being woken by the sharp bite of pain or the nagging feeling of discomfort. Aching joints from arthritis, a stiff spine that protests a flat mattress, the burning ascent of acid reflux, and the terrifying sensation of shortness of breath from conditions like congestive heart failure or COPD, all conspire to drive many from the traditional comfort of their bed to one common, seemingly practical solution: the recliner chair. You may know someone who has abandoned their bed altogether, or perhaps that someone is you. Night after night, sleeping in the recliner becomes a routine. It feels secure, the back angled just right to ease breathing, the legs elevated to reduce swelling, with a soft blanket and the television humming faintly in the background. It becomes a throne of nocturnal survival. But what feels safe, what feels like a clever solution to a difficult problem, can sometimes be the most quietly dangerous place of all. As a brain doctor, I have seen with increasing frequency how this very position, sleeping upright in a recliner for hours on end, night after night, can slowly and silently increase the risk of a devastating type of blood clot and stroke. The human body was designed to rest horizontally, a position that allows blood and oxygen to flow evenly throughout our entire system with minimal resistance from gravity. When you sleep in a semi-upright position, however, particularly one where your knees are bent and your hips are flexed at a sharp angle in a V shape, you are putting your circulatory system at a distinct and prolonged disadvantage. Gravity begins to pull blood downward, away from your brain, while simultaneously compressing the major veins in your legs and at the crease of your hips, most notably the popliteal and femoral veins. The result is sluggish blood flow, with blood pooling in your lower limbs, which dramatically increases the risk of clot formation, a condition known as deep vein thrombosis, DVT. This is particularly dangerous after the age of 60, when blood naturally becomes thicker and vessel walls have grown less flexible. That slow-moving blood in your lower body can form small, sticky, silent threads that may travel upward during the night, or, more commonly, in the early morning hours when you first stand up, causing the clot to dislodge. All it takes is for one of those clots to break free, travel through your heart, and lodge in a vessel in your lungs, a pulmonary embolism, or more insidiously, in your brain, and the damage is done before you even wake up. Let me tell you about Mrs. Barbara Keene, 79, a retired florist from Kentucky with a sharp memory, a passion for crossword puzzles, and the gentlest smile. She began sleeping in her big plush recliner 5 years ago after a hip replacement surgery made lying flat in bed too uncomfortable. Just until the pain goes away, she promised her concerned daughter. But the pain lingered, her breathing felt easier in the chair, and over time, the recliner became her permanent bed. She would often wake up feeling stiff and notice her ankles were swollen, but she chalked it up to old age and poor circulation, not realizing her sleeping habit was the direct cause. She managed to get by until one morning her daughter found her still in the chair, her morning cup of tea untouched. She was confused, her speech was slightly garbled, and she was barely able to move her left hand to grip her daughter's. She hadn't felt a thing, no headache, no chest pain, no warning whatsoever. But a scan at the hospital revealed she had suffered a lacunar stroke, a small, deep stroke caused by a tiny clot that had likely traveled from her legs and lodged in one of the tiny penetrating vessels deep inside her brain. She had no major heart condition or atrial fibrillation. What she did have was years of compromised circulation from sleeping upright. Her legs would often swell, her ankles felt tight, and she frequently felt dizzy upon standing. In retrospect, these were all classic warning signs of poor venous return. But she, like so many others, never imagined that her comfortable recliner, her nightly sanctuary, could become a stroke trap. If you must sleep elevated due to medical necessity, please understand that not all elevated positions are created equal. The key is to avoid sharp bends at the hips and knees. Consider an adjustable bed that can elevate your entire torso as a single unit, keeping your body in a straighter line. If that is not an option, a firm wedge pillow that supports your entire back and torso is a far safer alternative to a soft, sinking recliner. It is also crucial to get up and stretch and move your legs regularly to support healthy circulation and to stay well hydrated to keep your blood thin. Barbara now sleeps in an adjustable bed, with her head slightly raised and a body pillow to support her hip. She told me, her voice filled with a profound regret, "I thought I was making things easier for myself. I thought I was being smart. I never thought I was making them more dangerous." The danger for seniors often lies not in moving too much, but in staying still, in the wrong position, for far too long, allowing gravity to become an unseen enemy in the quiet of the night. Sleeping on the right side with arm under pillow. There is a sleeping position that millions of people, especially older adults, find immense comfort in. It feels natural, secure, and is so deeply ingrained in our nightly routine that we do it without a moment's thought. You lie on your right side, which many people prefer, tuck a soft pillow under your head, perhaps cradle another one between your knees for hip alignment, and, out of pure habit formed over a lifetime, you slide your right arm underneath the pillow, using it as an extra layer of support for your head. You drift off to sleep, thinking it's the same harmless way you've slept for decades, completely unaware of the insidious mechanical stress you are placing on your body's most critical infrastructure. But as a brain doctor who has studied the intricate mechanics of cerebral blood flow, I must tell you that this may be the single most dangerous common sleeping position for seniors. Not because it causes immediate pain, in fact, its danger lies in its very lack of overt warning signs, but because it quietly and persistently restricts blood flow to your brain night after night, significantly increasing your risk of a stroke during the very hours you believe you are resting safely. This isn't just about temporary numbness or pins and needles. This is about a sustained, hours-long assault on the lifelines to your brain. Let's break down exactly what is happening from a physiological standpoint. When you lie on your right side with your arm wedged under your head or pillow, your entire upper body weight is concentrated on your right shoulder and neck. This puts direct sustained pressure on the major arteries and veins in that region. This includes the right carotid artery, one of the two main vessels supplying the front part of your brain, and the right subclavian artery, which gives rise to the vertebral artery that supplies the back of your brain. When these vital highways for blood traveling to and from your brain are compressed for hours at a time, the flow of oxygenated blood slows to a dangerous crawl. Blood begins to pool, veins get squeezed shut, and the arteries are mechanically narrowed. In the quiet stillness of deep sleep, this stagnant blood begins to thicken and form microscopic clots. That clot might stay in place for hours, a ticking time bomb, until you shift in the early morning. As the sun rises, your blood pressure naturally spikes as part of your body's wake-up cycle. This surge of pressure can dislodge the clot, sending it traveling directly upward into the intricate network of vessels in your brain. In a matter of seconds, a vessel is blocked. A region of your brain is starved of oxygen, and a stroke occurs. Sleeping on the right side in particular may add an additional subtle layer of risk, as it can put slight pressure on the vena cava, the largest vein in the body, potentially impeding blood return to the heart and further slowing circulation. I think of Mr. Ellis Randall, a 75-year-old Vietnam veteran from North Carolina. He was a strong-willed, fiercely independent man who took pride in his physical fitness and used to joke that he could still outrun his grandson. Every night, Ellis slept on his right side, just as he had since his time in the military, curling his arm under his pillow for what he felt was better neck support. He'd wake up with a numb arm sometimes, but he'd just shake it out and think nothing of it. One morning, his wife found him attempting to get out of bed, but stumbling, dazed, and unable to move his left leg or lift his left arm. He was rushed to the ER, where scans revealed a right hemisphere ischemic stroke caused by a clot in his middle cerebral artery. But Ellis didn't have high cholesterol, he wasn't diabetic, and he didn't smoke. So where did the clot come from? As we meticulously reviewed his daily habits, it became clear. The chronic pressure on his right side, combined with years of sleeping on that arm, had compromised his vascular flow. An ultrasound showed a significant narrowing or stenosis of his right carotid artery. Because he had been unknowingly reducing blood flow through this already narrowed vessel for 8 hours every single night, a clot had formed silently in his sleep and struck just before dawn. Ellis survived, but his mobility is now greatly reduced. He walks with a brace and undergoes grueling weekly physical therapy to rebuild his coordination and this position doesn't just affect your arteries. It also directly compresses the brachial plexus, a complex and delicate bundle of nerves that runs from your spinal cord through your shoulder and down your arm. When that bundle is squeezed under your body weight for hours, the nerves don't just go numb, causing temporary pins and needles. They can become damaged over time, leading to chronic pain, weakness, and a condition known as thoracic outlet syndrome. Furthermore, these nerve distress signals can interrupt your deep sleep cycle without you ever realizing it, contributing to poor sleep quality and all the risks that come with it. For your own safety, please make a conscious effort to change this habit. Try switching to your left side, a position which some studies suggest may be better for circulation and reducing acid reflux. Most importantly, keep your arms resting forward or alongside your body, never underneath your head or pillow. Use a contoured or cervical pillow designed to fill the space between your neck and shoulder, keeping your neck in perfect alignment and reducing pressure on these key vessels. One small change in your physical habit may be all that stands between you and a life-altering neurological event.